Since Saturday is the day for reading Chaitanya Charitamrita, chant that, but it's also the appearance day of Srila Ramanujacharya, so I'll speak about it. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I am Vishnupad Paramahansa Paripatma Shri Shri Madhu Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Paripatma Anantakoti Vaishnavinda Ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Prem Sikho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Garadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Yamuna Devi Ki Ganga Devi Ki Bhakti Devi Ki Tulsi Devi ki, Vrindavan Dham ki, Mayapur Dham ki, Sankirtan Yajna ki, the Divine Appearance Day of Srila Ramanujacharya ki, Gaur Premanandi, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vistaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanamane. This is to be tighten it anymore. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We are celebrating the appearance day of Ramanujacharya, who is very powerful preacher of the Sri Sampradaya. So the Sampradaya, it originated with Sri, with Lakshmi Devi herself. And and here in South India, like even today, there's so much very great devotion for the deities and Brahminical culture in general. Like children are trained from very young age in Brahminical life, like at the Udupi temple and different temples like that. So South Indian devotees, they were influenced by the nine Alvars who had lived about 300 years before Ramanuja. So they but to a large extent, the philosophy, like others had adopted there, the great acharyas and all, it was steeped in Mayavad. They were very much influenced by Sankaracharya, and so and Sankaracharya he had appeared there only about 300 years before, and so he had attempted to establish his doctrine of absolute oneness, and which is similar to Buddhism, like you are God and I am God and God is God and we're all one. So and everything's one. That everything is Brahman, and it's formless, changeless, eternal, and devoid of all attributes. So all of the variety that we perceive in this world, that actually does not have any reality. That actually does not have any existence. Just because we are in ignorance, we are perceiving this, perceiving variety and changes. But when we are enlightened, this is their doctrine. So when we are enlightened by pure knowledge, then we'll realize that everything is Brahman, and that everything we perceived before, all of the varieties, it was simply an illusion. So this was the rampant philosophy at that time of Ramanuja, that he was strongly opposing this, as our disciplic succession does. Like we say, Prabhupada is Nirvishesha Shunyavadi. Like this is his mission to dismantle this Mayavad philosophy, and so Ramanuja as well. Now, Ramanuja's parents, they like were sad because they didn't have any children. They didn't have a son, and so they decided, let us go on pilgrimage and go and pray to the Lord and worship the Lord, so that he can we can pray to him that we may be able to obtain a son. And so, thank you. And so they went on pilgrimage, and and they they prayed to the Lord and worshipped him. Especially Kanchi Purna, that's where the the deity that deity that deity um, resides. And so then shortly after that, oh, this is let's see, hold on. In South India, there's been many great devotees. Perhaps I'm thinking of, I'm thinking of Jamunacharya, because Yamunacharya appeared, he was there the same time as Ramanuj, only much older. Like, he was more than 80 years older than Ramanuja. And so that was his parents who had prayed for this son, and then they got him. And then there's many glories of Yamunacharya and what a dynamite preacher he was. So um, one of his disciples, Yamunacharya's chief sannyasi disciples, was Sri Shailapurna, and Shailapurna had two sisters, Deepti and Kanti Mati. And so Kanti Mati, she was married to a very pious Brahmin known as Asuri Keshavacharya. And he was also called Sarvakratu because Kratu is like the fire sacrifices, and he was expert in different rituals and performance of them. So what happened was, so they also, oh yeah, so it's them. They didn't have a son, and they performed a fire yoga. That was his method of worship. And so for this purpose, they went to the temple of Sri Parthasarathi on the shores of the ocean, which is now Madras. And is it still Madras? Because they changed Chennai. Now it's Chennai even. So they begged the Lord to give them a son, and the Lord heard their prayer. 1 year later, a son was born to Deepti Mati. And then Shaila Purna, he is the uncle because his other sister, she also had a son, and around the same time. And so he came to visit them, and when he saw that both of the boys had the marks on the body, that, then he named them. He named the boy Ramanuja, which is a name of Lakshman. Rama Anuja. Anuja means to follow Ram. And then he gave Deeptiman's son the name Govinda. Now, Ramanuja's appearance, it was actually predicted because he's an incarnation actually of Lord Ram. And it was predicted in the Padma Purana that in this age, a great, powerful personality would appear who would be able to, to spread the influence of Vaishnavism all over. And so he was the one. So it was even predicted way before his appearance. And he was, of course, a brilliant boy. And he began to attend school. But, you know, he just was so smart that that he just already kind of knew everything, and he would learn. And all of his teachers loved him because of his gentle and courteous nature, not only because he was brilliant. And so at that time, when he was going to school, there was a famous devotee of the Lord named Kanchi Purna who lived in the nearby city of Kanchi Purnam. I guess he was named after Kanchi Purnam, just like we have, devotees named Vrindavan and named Mayapur, and we have a friend Salvador from El Salvador, named like that. So he was a disciple. So a famous devotee, Kanchi Purna, he was a disciple of Yamunacharya, and he was born in a Shudra family. So even though the Brahmins would offer him all respect, and he would travel every day. Like again, the level of attachment and devotion to the deities. Even today, it was so very high that every day he lived in Kanchi, but he would travel to the village of Hornamale to worship the deity there. And it so happened that Butapuri, which was about in the middle, that is the home of Ramanuja. So one day, as Ramanuja was returning home from school, he met Kanchiporna face to face. And he just by seeing him, Ramanuja was so attracted by his demeanor and by his effulgence. And they so he Ramanuja invited him to come to his house and to come for a meal. And then they were very much they had such a wonderful, wonderful relationship based on Krishna Katha. And so after he had some prasad, then Kanchi Purna was going to leave, and Ramanuja began to massage his feet. And he said, "Please, please don't massage my feet. I am nothing but a lowborn Shudra, and thus your servant. It is not proper for a Brahmana like you to deal with me in such a way." So, Rama, the caste system was very prevalent as well. And so Ramanuja, he's saying, what good is it to like have all of this book knowledge, that if it's preventing me, if my being a Brahmin is preventing me from serving and worshiping a great soul like you, then what is the value of a cheap thread that I can get? Because only a person who is fully devoted to Lord Vishnu is a real Brahmin and no one else. So, anyway, they just stayed up late into the night speaking. And then Ramanuja asked him to stay over because it was already very dark. And then the next morning he left. So when Ramanuja was only 16 years old, his father, Asuri Keshavacharya, got him married. So to a very nice, beautiful young girl, Rachi Tambal. And only a few only 1 month after their wedding, Keshava Acharya left this world. So now Ramanuja, it was a time of great sorrow, but so he was the protector of his mother and his young wife. There was nobody else. So now that his father had left, they found no happiness there in Bhutapuri. So they decided we should move to Kanchi. So it said he went first to construct a residence. I imagine he had construction workers too, and then they all moved there. And in there, in Kanchi, was Yadava Prakash. Yadava Prakash was well known as a very learned scholar. His fame had attracted many students and disciples to him. So Ramanuja, he thought, I'll also become his student. And so, because again, Ramanuja, he was such a pleasant personality and very quick intelligence, endeared him to the great Pandit. But it didn't last very long, that very sweet relationship, because again, Ramanuja was steeped in personalism, in devotion and Vaishnavism, and Yadava Prakash was a firm adherent of the Mayavad philosophy of absolute oneness. And so, and he actually denied the supremacy of the beloved Lord of Ramanuja. So one day, um, this one is famous story how Yadava Prakash asked Ramanuja to give him a massage with oil. So he was massaging, and then one of the students, just like Srila Prabhupada sometimes would discuss during his massage, or he would dictate letters. And so one student came and he said, I have a question about this morning's verse from the Chandogya Upanishad and what that word means, in this verse, Kapyasam Punjarikam Evam Akshini. So, what does this Kapyasam mean? And so Yadavacharya explained, so you all remember, I think, he explained that it means the rear end of a monkey because the rear ends of a monkey is red. And so, it means that the Supreme Lord has eyes like lotuses as red as a monkey's rear end. And so when Ramanuja heard this, remember he's massaging and he's very respectful and then tears started, hot tears of grief because cold tears are tears of joy and hot tears are tears of sorrow. So he just started crying upon hearing this that and then Yadava Prakash could feel the tears dripping on his body, and he looked up and he said, "What's the matter? Why are you in distress like this?" And he told him, "It caused me so much suffering to hear this terrible explanation from a great soul like yourself. How sinful it is to compare the beautiful lotus eyes of the Lord to the posterior of a monkey. I never expected to hear such a thing from my teacher." And then the teacher said, "You're aggrieved. I am aggrieved because you're impotent, and such words are from an inferior are never praiseworthy. Okay, if you think you have a better explanation, then let's hear it." And then Ramanuja said, "By your mercy, everything's possible." So he told him, he broke the word down, kapyasi. He said there's another way of breaking that word down, that kapi can be taken as kam jalam pibati, which means drinks up the water. So what drinks up the water? And asam also means blossom. So it's the lotus flower because kapi asam means that which blossoms under the sun or the lotus flower. So therefore, the eyes of the Lord are red like the lotus flower. So now, Madhava Prakash was very surprised to hear this, and um, and so you know that was just one thing, and he let it go. But a few days later, then again, Yadava Prakash was teaching his students, and he started speaking again in Mayavad, impersonal philosophy. And Ramanuja stood up and said, "No, this verse means instead of that the Lord has no attributes. He's saying it means that he possesses truth, knowledge, and infinity." And so Yadava Prakash said, "You presumptuous child, then if you won't accept my explanations, then why do you come here? Why not go home and start a school of your own?" So he's like, okay, like he got kicked out of school more or less. So he left. But then Yadava thought, I bet he's going to do it. He's going to start his own school. And then I'll really be finished because then he'll be establishing he'll strongly establish the dualistic philosophy of devotion, and then I'll really be finished. So I know I have a better idea. I have to kill him. Just kill him. Because he's got his this young student. And he was so envious of him. He could see that he was so much purer in heart. So he called his other students and he said, a secret meeting. All of you have always taken my instructions and you never questioned anything. But this Ramanuja, he repeatedly challenges, right in the class in front of everyone. He challenges me, and he's very intelligent, but his ideas are all based on this false doctrine. So, seeing a difference between the self and God. So, he's a complete heretic, and he'll cause havoc in society through his teachings. We must find some way to get rid of him. And then somebody said, um, why don't you just not allow him to come to school then? And then he said, yeah, but then he's going to open his own school. So they thought for a while, all right, let's go on a pilgrimage to the Ganga. Now it was long on foot. It would take about 3 months walking to get there, and then 3 months to get back. And so he said, all right, we'll do this. So they went, and let's all go on a pilgrimage to bathe in the Ganga. And on the way there, in a remote area, we'll put an end to this heretic. No one will know anything about it. We'll tell them when we come back, he got very sick along the way and he just died in the forest. And then when we get to the Ganga, we'll all bathe in the Ganga to free ourselves of the sin of killing a Brahmin. So, like we say, an offense to the chanting of the holy name is to commit sin on the strength of chanting the holy name. So he's thinking we'll commit sin on the strength of the purificatory benefits of bathing in the Ganga. And then so they're like, yeah, good idea. But it just so happened, all right, so when they were going to go, Ramanuja told his cousin Govinda about it, and he said, "I would like to go too." So Govinda, he also went. So, but Kanti Mati, his mother, she was so unhappy, like she was very attached to him, and so unhappy that she would be separated for so many months. But she knew it's very auspicious, and it's headed by his teacher, and it should be okay. So, and so then they came to a desolate region, and he considered that this would be a good place to execute his evil plan. And so they were discussing the final preparations, how they're going to kill him and all. And Govinda was not too far away, and he happened to hear them. So he went, as soon as he had the opportunity, he told Ramanuja how they're about to kill you. So you should. Ramanuja, imagine, he's like really like so surprised. His teacher and all his classmates, they're plotting to kill him. And that was the purpose of their pilgrimage, actually. And so, as soon as, they were walking ahead, and he just turned around and ran the other way. And then after a while, they noticed, where's Ramanuja? And so he sent some of the boys go look for him. And so the boys started going into the forest, calling out his name, and they couldn't. There was no response, and they thought, hmm, must be he probably got eaten by a wild animal, and some wild beast. So they were so happy we didn't have to kill him, that the Lord killed him by destiny. And so um and so he just kept walking. When he left, it was just a half an hour before sunset, so it was starting to get dark. So although everyone was happy, they pretended to be grief stricken. And then Yadava Prakash preached to Govinda about, he's not the body and you're not the body, and don't be attached and all of that. So when Ramanuja, um, when he started going, in the forest, I guess because he knew where the sun was setting, he went south, and then it got dark, and he thought, but why should I be afraid? Like he said, he was about 18 years old, and he was alone and had nobody in a land far from home. And he said, but Lord Narayan's the protector of his devotees, so I shouldn't be afraid. So he just walked and walked most of the whole night. And then at the end of the night, he was so exhausted and so hungry that he just sat underneath a big tree, and he laid down and rested there. So then he woke up in the morning. It was already afternoon time. And then he woke up and he was rejuvenated and said, okay, let me continue. But I don't know even which way to go. And then he saw a fowler couple, so a couple who hunts birds. And so they he said, tell me, can you tell me which way it is to Kanchi Pornum? Have you heard of such a place? And my home is very far away to the south. And they said, oh, you've gotten lost. And don't you know that this forest is infested with robbers and wild animals? They said, I know, Kanchi Pornum, the man said, the fowler. Just come with us. We're going in that direction. So Ramanuja was so surprised to hear this. And he said, why are you going to Kanchi? And he said, we're forest dwellers and we live in a small village near the Vindhya Mountains. We've made our livelihood by catching birds. So now we're going on pilgrimage to Rameshwaram and Kanchipornam to free ourselves from the reactions to so many sinful activities. It seems that the Supreme Lord, who gives shelter to everyone, has brought you to us for protection. So Ramanuja is thinking this sounds a little far fetched, and that they happen to be going to Kanchipuranam. But still, the man had a very kind face and spoke very sweetly, so he believed him. And now he said, the fowler said, let's go quickly through this forest region, and then we can camp for the night near an underground river. So they went, and then after about a half an hour, they came to the bank of the river, and the fowler lit a fire, and he said, "We'll just spend the night here." But then the wife of the fowler, she said to her husband, "My dear, I'm feeling very thirsty. Can you look for some water for me?" But he said, no, now it's dark. We have the light of this fire, but once we step away from it, it's too dark. Just wait. Tomorrow in the morning, you'll be able to quench your thirst. And so the next morning, they rose and then they came to a well. And Ramanuja went down. There were steps going down to this well, and he got water for the fowler's wife. And she said, I'm still thirsty. So 3 times got water for her. Then he went down the last time and got water the fourth time. And when he came back, they were gone. The couple had vanished. They were nowhere to be seen. And then he could see now that that and he realized this was Lakshmi and Narayan actually in the form of a fowler and his wife. It was the Supreme Lord himself, and he just like broke down crying like how how the Lord had protected him. So then he saw that a little bit in the distance there were towers of temples and there were houses, and he asked, somebody was going by, sir, what is the name of this town? And the man said, what do you mean? You don't know what the name of the town is? I've seen you there. That's Kanchipurnam. You're a student of Yadava Prakash. I've seen you there many times. Why are you speaking like a stranger? And so the Lord Narayan and Lakshmi or Sitaram, they had transported him there. It was days walk away. They had somehow transported him right outside of the city of his home. So when he went, he was so surprised, and then his heart was so filled with ecstasy. So then he went home, and his mother Kanti Manta, she was so much in separation anxiety from him. But then he came, and she was so shocked that he came to her doorway. He paid his obeisances, and she said, "Why did you come back so soon?" And where is Govinda, his cousin? And I thought it was going to take at least 6 months to do this. And then he told her how Yadav Prakash, his teacher, had plotted to have him killed, and she was so horrified. And then Deepti Manti, she said, where's my Govinda?" But that that will come. She'll find out later where he is. So then Ramanuja, he just studied at home, studied the scriptures, and he asked his mother and his aunt, don't tell anybody. about the treacherous dealings of Yadava Prakash. So some months later, the Acharya returned, and except Govinda was not with them, and they asked, you know, so he acted, of course, Yadav Prakash, like, oh, you're here. And, he just said, yeah, I got lost and got back. So, you're here. Oh, we're so happy, when really he was so unhappy that he's not dead. He's here. And then Deeptiman said, where's my son Govinda? And he told Yadav Prakash on his way, um, like he found when he bathed in in a river. Let's see, bathed in the river, he found a Shiva linga in the water. And so when he found this linga, he became immediately, he began to worship it. And then day by day, his devotion to Lord Shiva grew. And when they arrived at Kalahasti, which is a great center of Shaivite worshippers, he told his teachers that he wants to stay there to worship Lord Shiva. And, um, and so he's dedicated his life for that. And and so Deeptiman, she wasn't distressed. She thought, how wonderful, how glorious that my son has given himself to a life of complete renunciation and worship. So Yadava Prakash, he thought, oh boy, I wonder if 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 Ramanuja knows about my plot. So he didn't let on that he knew. So he was glad, and then he felt really ashamed, and then he turned to the Ramanuja and said, "You should come back." Remember, he threw him out of school once, so you should come once more to study with me. So then, um, and he was, such a incredible student. So one day, Alabandara, that is the name of Yamunacharya, another name because he is the conqueror, and he had conquered the great Pandit of the Brahmin Pandit in the court of the king when he was just a child, and so he became known as Alabandara, the conqueror. So he once came to Kanchipurnam to see Lord Varadaraj. So Kanchipurnam is a great place of pilgrimage. Have any of you been there? Oh, you have. Yeah, and I haven't. But so it's so many devotees go to accept the blessings of Lord Varadaraj. And when he was coming from, he went with some of his disciples, many of them actually. Yamunacharya saw Yadava Prakash walking with his disciples, his hand resting on the shoulder of Ramanuja. And he thought, how terrible, this effulgent young man. Um, he said, and he asked one of his followers, "Who is that? Who's that young man with him?" And they said, "That's Ramanuja." And he said, "Really? I've heard about him because he wrote a Upanishadic mantra." And he said, "Wow, how disturbing, though," he thought, that he's with Yadava Prakash, that impersonalist Mayavadi atheist, really. And then he prayed. He prayed to Lord Varadaraj. Imagine. He offered a prayer, and he said, "O lotus-eyed one, husband of Lakshmi, please bestow your full mercy upon Ramanuja so that he will be able to worship you fully without any hindrance." And so, oh wow, I didn't know it was so late. Um, and so, anyway, better skip ahead. So anyway, he so much wanted to approach Ramanuja, but he didn't want to associate with non-devotees like Yadava Prakash. So now, um, another time, the apart from his great learning, Yadava Prakash was an expert ghost buster, and he was expert in magical arts. And so, however, one time the king, his daughter, became attacked by a Brahma Rakshasa ghost. And so Yadava Prakash was called to exorcise the ghost. And what happened was when he came there, and the ghost just laughed in a hideous, shrill voice. The ghost within the princess called out, Yadava Prakash, of what use are your mantras? You are wasting your time. Go back home. And he said, and Yadava Prakash, he continued with his attempts with more mantras to exorcise the evil spirit. And then the Brahma Rakshasa spoke. Why do you waste your strength in vain? Your power is much inferior to mine. The only way you will be able to force me to leave the body of this beautiful princess is by bringing here your youngest disciple, the devoted uh, Ramanuja. So his purity is the only force that can overcome my potency. So Yadav Prakash sent for Ramanuja, and the ghost spoke and said, if you will just kindly place your feet upon your lotus feet on my head, then I will leave. Because Ramanuja said, leave, like just leave the body right now. And he said, if you place your feet. So even a a ghost, a Rakshasa ghost knows if I can get the blessings of Ramanuja, what a wonderful thing it is. And then Ramanuja did it, and he said, tell me. He put his feet on the girl's head, and then, how will I know that you have left? And he said, look, I'm leaving now, and I will go to the top of the nearest banyan tree, and I'll break the highest branch of that tree. And when that falls, you will know. And then just a minute later, the branch fell. So then the king was so overjoyed by that. So now another time, what happened was, this is the final confrontation. A few weeks later, again, the Ramanuja refuted his teacher, and at that time, on hearing his teachings nullified, he became very angry, and he said, if you do not like my explanations of the scriptures, then do not come to me anymore. And Ramanuja got up, paid obeisances, and said, and left, and never to return under the tutelage of him. I, I, there's so much I can't believe. I thought I didn't have enough to say, but I haven't even touched it. But anyway, all glories to Sri Ramanujacharya. Jai.
Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Enam Kanvanda Maravindalaya Tartam Bhagavatam Shamasitam Buddhasundarakam Kandar Bhako Vidamaniya Vishesha Shobha Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Andani Yasta Sakale Priya Priti Manti Vasyanti Vikayanti Gira Prakanti Ananda Chinmaya Sadhu Jala Vigrasya Govinda Adi Purusha Amaham Bhajami Govinda Adi Purusha Amaham Bhajami Govinda Amaham Govinda Adi Purusha
Namago Vishnu Pai Krishna Krishna Yap Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Dhaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Guruvani Pachat Devasesha Shunyavagade Vasachade Satarane Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda Advaita Jana Siva Sadi Gaurmata Jaya Shri Krishna Shri Advaita Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Jaya Shiva Sadi Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Jaya Shiva Sadi Gaurmata Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Jayat, Rukyananandana, Rukyanan, Radhe. Jayat, Rukyananand, Radhe, Rukyananand, Radhe. Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa.
Jetodarparam Arjanam Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvap Jaya Kairavya Chandrikaranam Jivanam. Wow. Beautiful. Krishna must be Krishna. Sarvatma Sapanam Bharvidayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Manjutarva Shaktis Tatrapidani Mata Smaranena Kala Etadrishi Tavakripa Bhagavan Mamapi Durdaiva Midrishami Hajanina Nuraga Trinadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Suhishuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari Nadanam Najanam Nasundarim Kavitam Va Jagadishakamaye Mama Janmani Janmani Ishvare Bhavatad Bhakti Arahoitaki Twai Ainanda Tanuja Kinkaram Patitam Mam Vishame Bhavam Buddha Kripaya Tavapada Pankaja Stita Duli Sadrashim Vachintaya Nayanam Galada Shudaraya Varanam Gad Gadavridaya Gira Pulakarnishitam Vabhugada Tava Namagrahane Bhavishyati Yuga Yatam Namishena Chakshusha Pravashayatam Shunayatam Jagat Sarvam Govindam Virahena Me Ashlishyava Padam Ritatumam Adarshana Marma Takarotuva Yatatata Vabindadolam Padona Rananata Avana. Victory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life, of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss, enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. Oh, my Lord, congregational chanting of your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names and in all your transcendental energies, there are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. Oh, my Lord, out of kindness, you enable us to easily approach you, holy names. But I'm so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw on the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, you chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your service birth after birth. O Son Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor. Yet somehow or other I have fallen to the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. Oh, my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up, and when will the hairs of my body stand and end at the recitation of your name? Oh, Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I am feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he shall remain so, even if he handles me roughly by his embrace, or makes me brokenhearted by not being present before me. He is completely free in anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord, unconditionally. Hari Haribo. It's Harinam Sankirtan today in Chapel Hill between 4 and 6. And this is our best outreach we can do to reach people in Chapel Hill. So please join at the post office on Franklin Street. Haribo. in Fuquay Verena. The divine couple and the divine.